Elon put out serious post. But Elon Musk, the guy who's running things in the Republican Party and I guess the country, says he wants a shutdown. It's not going to hurt him. There's hundreds of billions of dollars. He's already declaring victory on Twitter, posting, "Your elected representatives have heard you." Oh, yeah, us. And now the terrible bill is dead, says the billionaire. The voice of the people,
the voice
meaning
of
me,
the people,
has triumphed.
The voice of the people. You heard it there. Welcome back. You're listening to Lurie Daniel Favors on SiriusXM's Urban View, where talk empowers and becomes action. That was the voice of Chris Hayes talking about the fact that President Elon Musk just blew up the continuing resolution. The continuing resolution, which was going to have enough money in it to keep the government funded from midnight on 12:01 a.m. Saturday morning until March 14th, which is Pi Day, I think. 314. Yeah, it's Pi Day. So they were going to fund the government because the government runs out of money. And for those of you who are new to the machinations known as the debt ceiling negotiations and the continuing resolutions, every so often, the American government has to pay the bills based on things they already spent. So, you know, like how you get a credit card and you go out and buy things. And then after you've bought the things, eventually you're going to get a credit card bill and you're going to have to pay the bill. And if you don't pay the bill, your credit's going to get cut. It's going to mess up your credit history, your credit report. And depending on what you bought with said credit card, they might repost some things. Like if you put a car on a credit card, which depending on the interest rate and your own personal FICO scores and financial situation, and you pay for that car with that credit card, but then you don't pay that credit card bill, then something might be getting repossessed. Okay, so that's essentially what's happening when it comes to these continuing resolutions. Every so often, every couple times in administration, the government reaches a point where they are going to run out of money. And so they have to create a bill that's going to be called a continuing resolution or do something else, which we'll get to in just a second. But if they create this continuing resolution that basically says, listen, we have some other budget things that we need to work out, but we're about to run out of money. We don't want to default on our debts because if America defaults on its debts, and that's going to do terrible things to the dollar, in addition to doing terrible things to the American people, millions of whom work for the federal government. So they put together this package that's called a continuing resolution. The continuing resolution is going to allow the government to keep running because what's going to happen at 12 o'clock on Friday night or 12:01 a.m. Saturday morning, what's going to happen is the government will begin the process of shutting down. It will not have any more money to pay government workers. And government workers to you might just be your aunties and them who work for the federal government. It's also TSA, right? It's also the people who are going to make sure that when you get on a plane, your plane has a clear flight to take off and a clear path to land. It's going to be the people who are checking you as you're going through security, all of you who are planning to travel this holiday season. All of those workers are federal workers. Those of you who are working for the military or you're connected to the military, federal workers. And so this is going to have a big deal implication because there are millions of Americans right now who work for the federal government who keep it going. And if they're not considered essential and the government runs out of money, they're going to be stuck at home, which means you're not going to get the things that you need from the government. Now, how did we get here? As those of you who are listening in Urban View just heard, Chris Hayes was explaining this. We got here in a really interesting way. Typically, the way we always do, the Democrats and the Republicans have to reach an agreement. Now, Republicans own the House right now. They run the House because we have not yet gotten to the point where the new Congress has been sworn in. So we are still in the Biden-Harris era of Congress. So they were able to create a bipartisan continuing resolution, which means they have reached an agreement. They was like, hey, son, we got a whole lot of shit we still got to pay for. We can't quite figure these things out, but we don't want to run out of money. We don't want to be the ones basically sacrificing the American people. So we are going to put together this thing called a continuing resolution. It's going to give us the ability to spend what we need to spend between now and March 14th of 2025. Then we can come back and revisit some things. It'll be a new government in office. You'll have the Trump administration in office. We'll have the Republicans who will own the Senate and who will own the House, which means whatever deal they were going to come up with in March of 2025 would be wholly owned by, ding, 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 the Republicans. Keep that in mind because that plays a lot into what's happening right now. So they were supposed to vote on this. They were supposed to vote on this yesterday. They had all the votes. The Republicans were on board. The Democrats were on board. They had all of the votes. They were supposed to be voting on this yesterday. We were supposed to be coming on air today to let y'all know, hey, the government passed the continuing resolution. It was going to be such a nothing burger. I might not have even mentioned it because it would have just been government business going as government business goes. Howsoever, as the saints, caints, and the ain'ts likes to say, Elon Musk, the true president of the nation, President Elon Musk was like, hey, man, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. And here's a little bit of what he didn't like, because it's important that we know what was in the bill. In addition to having the continuing resolution, which would have just kept the government funding at its current levels, meaning, we're going to keep the government. We're not expanding the government. We're going to keep the government going at its current funding levels. They did also have additional things that Republicans and Democrats thought were important. Listen at what some of these things were. They wanted to have an additional $100 billion in disaster aid, which is interesting because you remember Hurricanes Milton, Hurricane Helene, which destroyed a whole lot of North Carolina and a lot of the eastern seaboard right before the election. Remember those hurricanes that were devastating? Well, the people them who went through all of that, they still need hurricane relief because they have not been able to come up out of the devastation that was caused by the hurricane. So the Republicans and the Democrats also added $100 billion in disaster aid. Now, if you're going to add some more money to your budget, and your money for your budget that you are adding is on some BS, well, then, yeah, we'd have reason to critique. I wasn't in the hurricane pathway, but I have been in a hurricane, and I know what it is to see the devastation. I actually think if you are going to raise the amount of money we're spending by $100 billion, give it to people who are in disasters. Give it to the disaster aid fund so that they have the ability to pull their lives back together after the disaster. And considering the fact that we have entire governments in the state of places like Florida where they have eliminated your ability to even talk about climate change in any formal, meaningful way by striking that language from their legislative discourse in the state of Florida, you have states that are completely ignoring the fact that climate change exists. We know these disasters are going to get bigger. So yeah, add money for disaster relief. They also have $10 billion in additional economic assistance to farmers. Now, keep in mind, the people in North Carolina and the people up and down the eastern seaboard who got devastated by this, many of them were Republicans who voted for Donald Trump and Republicans. Many of the farmers who were going to get this additional $10 billion in support are Republicans who voted for the Republicans and voted for Donald Trump. They also had changes in the health, energy, and foreign investment policies. They also had a pay raise for members of Congress, which I can disagree with as much as anybody. I don't think Congress needs an additional pay raise, so we could quibble about that. But they also had a provision that was going to create a stadium. So definitely some things that were in there that Republicans and Democrats probably didn't need to add in there, but a lot of other things that they absolutely did. Because if you're in a disaster zone, you want that disaster relief. If you're one of those farmers who have been devastated by some of these disasters, you want that farm bill relief. But now nobody's going to get it. And nobody's going to get it because President Elon Musk has entered the chat. Now, after President Elon Musk entered the chat by tweeting over 70 times that he did not like this continuing resolution at the last freaking minute, they were supposed to vote on this. If they don't have the package passed by midnight of Saturday morning, 12:01 a.m. Saturday morning, the government shuts down. Massive amounts of billions of dollars in harm is going to be unleashed on American people, regardless of who you voted for. They already had a deal. Elon Musk finds out about it. I don't know what him and Vivek Ramaswamy are doing over at Doge. I don't know why they enter in the chat all late in the game, but they entered the chat mad late in the game, like the day before it was supposed to happen. He starts tweeting on his platform, which he purchased so that he could do these sorts of things. And then he says things to the effect of, any of the Republicans who don't agree with me are going to get primary. And basically, I'm going to pay for it. I'm President Elon Musk. I have unlimited dollars. Who going to check me, boo? Not you, the Republican. Why? Because I have unlimited amount of resources to fund anybody to come up against you. And you're going to have to fight a primary, which means you're not going to get reelected. And that's the biggest thing that elected officials want, in addition to helping the people, is to be reelected. So Elon Musk starts tweeting on his platform. And after President Elon Musk says what he has to say, then Vice President and Junior Varsity Co-President Trump and Vance are like, oh, that's right. That's right. We don't like it either. We don't like the continuing resolution. And they called it a bunch of Democratic giveaways, even though it was a bipartisan bill. Republicans also wanted these things. And then President Trump, well, future President Trump, I should say future Vice President Trump, because we are clear about who the real president is right now. It is not Donald Trump. It is not J.D. Vance. It is Elon Musk and his co-partner, Vivek Ramaswamy. And so basically, Donald Trump not only enters the chat late, but he enters the chat demanding that they not only not pass the continuing that they not pass the existing continuing resolution. He says he wants a clean continuing resolution and he wants a debt ceiling limit increase. Now, that wasn't even a part of the conversation. Wasn't nobody even thinking about no debt ceiling increase. That's why you had a continuing resolution, because that wasn't even a part of the conversation. Because a debt ceiling increase would mean that America, the government, would be able to increase the amount of money that it is spending. Why would he want to do that? Why would he want to do that now? Why would he want this to happen under the Democrats and not under the Republicans so he could wholly own his policy? Well, what's interesting, and this is what he says. He says, increasing the debt ceiling is not great. This is Donald Trump talking. Vice President Donald Trump. He says, increasing the debt ceiling is not great, but we'd rather do it on Biden's watch. Any Republican, he says the Democrats are looking to embarrass us in June when it comes up for a vote, because the debt ceiling isn't even supposed to be an issue until June of 2025. He says the Democrats are looking to embarrass us in June when it comes up for a vote. He says any Republican who would, quote, be so stupid as to vote for a spending bill that didn't also immediately eliminate the debt ceiling or raise the debt ceiling would also face a primary challenge. Why? Why would President Elon Musk and Vice President Donald Trump want to increase the debt limit? Well, here's the thing. Remember those tax cuts that the Republicans passed for themselves, where the millionaires and the billionaires got like $1.9 trillion worth of tax cuts? And those tax cuts were temporary because they didn't have enough votes to make them permanent. Well, those tax cuts, you know what? They're going to expire next year. And Donald Trump, as you may recall, Vice President Trump has told all his billionaire friends that they were going to increase those tax cuts and they were going to make them permanent so that the millionaires and the billionaires could keep not spending any money on taxes, but they can't do that within the current spending limits of the American government. So he wants them to increase the debt limit so that his boys, the billionaire club, can get more money out of the American people. And this is actually what President Elon Musk is asking for and what he's demanding. And this is where we're at right now. So President Musk has decided he really wants those tax cuts. President Musk also doesn't want any further investigations into the fact that his Teslas have been listed as one of the most dangerous cars on the road. Sorry for all your Tesla club people, the Tessie clubs, but it's been considered one of the most dangerous cars on the road. And there's a lot of investigations happening right now over the fact that when Teslas entered their self-driving autopilot situation, there was a whole lot more crashes, a lot of deaths, a lot of injuries, and they're not very safe. And Elon Musk is also facing a lot of investigations, including a lot of charges, a lot of claims that would cost him a lot of money. And in order to buy your way out of those situations is always really helpful when you can buy the presidency. Because if you can buy the presidency, and then you can not only make all those investigations go away, but you can also pressure on the Republicans to do exactly what you want them to do by threatening to run primaries against them because you have unlimited amounts of money. This is why we don't allow billionaires to run things in countries where things make sense. So this is where we're at. They blew up the deal. Shutdowns are coming. There's no way for this to get done in any smooth, clean way. And Mike Johnson, now they're talking about jail him, the Speaker of the House. They don't even want him to keep his job anymore. They said you're gonna have to lose your job as Speaker, and we think you need to go to jail. Keep in mind, the person who had the position as the Speaker of the House before Mike Johnson lost his job because why? He agreed to raise a continuing resolution and the debt ceiling. So this is where we're at. The billionaire president pulling strings with the minor league junior varsity presidents who pretend that they're still in charge. They blew up this deal. They are threatening the Republicans with primary challengers. And so Republicans, anticipate will fall in line. But remember, Republicans don't have enough votes to do it on their own, not in the House. And the Democrats still own the Senate. So what's it going to be? I don't know. But this continuing resolution going to have to get passed some kind of way, or we're going into a shutdown right before the Christmas holidays. And shout out to the Amazon workers again, who also just went on strike. America, MAGA. We got to go to commercial break. 866-801-8255, 866-801-TALK is the number. This is what it looks like when you put billionaires in charge of the government. This is what it looks like. This is the FAFO. We ain't even got the man sworn in yet. This is the FAFO. When you put billionaires in charge of your government and when you allow puppets to be put in that office because it feels good to the whiteness and it feels good to vote in your white supremacist interest and not in your class interest, this is where it's at. Happy shutdown and happy holidays. We're going to head to commercial break and much more to come on the Lurie Daniel Favors Show. God help us all. We'll be right back after this.